I have undoubtedly not only found my purpose, but I have found a culture that accepts my ideas, embraces my ideas, everyone's ideas, really. It's a more voices are heard, better decisions are made culture that we really strive for at Microsoft. So today, I'm going to share with you a mindset for business so that you might glean some ideas on how our journey might impact your journey, your customer's journey, your employee's journey, you as a business person, but most importantly, you as a human being. So what are we going to learn out of today's session? Well, first, you're going to learn how to inclusively market successfully. Secondly, we'll learn how to see the opportunities and uncover white space. And finally, we're going to make it real with some brands who are doing the brilliant work that is not only driving business impact, but impacting the lives of those who are typically not being considered. So, how many of us have had the opportunity to go to a fair or a carnival or an amusement park? Okay, so most of us have had that opportunity. What if you never had that opportunity because it was just too overwhelming for you? What if you never had the opportunity to take your child shopping in a retail store because it was frankly too much of a cognitive challenge? What if you could only find clothing or plush toys that fit into your child's sensory needs in one, maybe two retailers, and those items cost 4 times more than any other clothing or plush toy out there? These are some of the experiences that I have encountered as the mother of a child on the spectrum. So today, we are going to look at how my son and so many others out there are being excluded from products, options, experiences that may allow them to engage just like everybody else does. Before we get too far into this, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a landscape and start building out what we're going to talk about, kind of a framework today. And that framework is going to be built on a few key elements of the landscape. So to start our journey, let's look at the fact that by 2044, there will be no clear majority in the US. In Canada, 50% of Canada is multicultural today. 55% of London is multicultural today, and by 2055, a third of all England will be. And finally, 75% of Australians identify with an ancestry other than Australian. So, let's consider that our world is rapidly becoming increasingly diverse, which makes inclusion that much more critical to everything that we do. And as we continue to fill in that landscape and paint that picture, we find that 83% of all spending in the US is influenced by women. That is huge, and $7 trillion worth of buying power, but there is opportunity where 85% of women report that advertising does a poor job of representing us. Let's change that. Let's not do stereotypical advertising where 89% of women say that advertising shows us as stereotypes, or only 4% say that we are shown as aspirational, or 3% as notably intelligent. We have the power to change all of that. But how do we do this? Let me share with you what this is all about. How do we change our mindset so that we can find these opportunities, shifting the way that we see our business? We do that through proximity. We get close to those around us. We learn from others, and almost as a requirement, those unlike ourselves. And as we begin to learn what it's like to be in their shoes, we develop empathy. And that empathy leads to insights. And that insight leads to innovation. And that innovation allows us to uncover exclusions and really innovate for that impact. Now, I want to share a stat with you. And that is that inclusive approaches to business report 3 times higher levels of innovation and better decision making. This is something that we can all action upon. Now, I'd like to share a little bit of our journey to set the landscape for you and really show you how Microsoft has built this journey. Now, a group of Microsoft employees had deliberate curiosity. Annually, the largest private science fair in the world, Satya, our CEO, started an event where employees participate in a 3-day-long hackathon. During this event, our dreams of empowering new people, creating new inventions, really come to life. Now, this specific example started about 4 years ago and was designed inclusively through getting close to the Able Gamers Foundation, Craig Hospital, Warfighter Engage, Special Effect, and many, many other community members. That idea became a product. The adaptive controller shown in the bottom right corner was released to the public this past September. Now, feedback from these groups has helped us directly design the functionality of the controller. So now, as you can see, it has a similar aesthetic as the original controller, but because no one person's ability or disability is the same, there are so many customizable ports in the back so that you can connect thumbsticks, buttons, triggers, pedals. Any 3.5 millimeter jack can be connected. So much more customizable functionality. And an interesting thing to note here is that this was designed to allow those with disabilities to be able to game, but now they're using it for computing. This is actually opening doors to an audience that were previously closed to them. Now, I want to share an inclusive marketing principle for you all, and that is, if you design for one, you design for all. Designing for the edge allows us to create products for everyone. Now, as the Xbox team developed this controller, they thought, we don't want to stop there. How can we expand this and really create an inclusive experience? How can we give this audience the joy of being able to open the package on their own? Now, I don't know about you, but this happens to me all the time. I get a product, I'm super excited, the packaging is incredibly frustrating to open, and I nearly damage the actual product trying to get it out. But not this. With a few pulls on an easy-to-grasp loop, this package literally just falls open. Who wouldn't want a package that is designed like this? Now, I want to share another little tidbit, another little food for thought, and that is that gaming is not just for the young. Gamers are aging. And studies show that gaming has a tremendous impact on things like mental sharpness, mobility, dexterity. Again, design for one, you end up designing and delighting for all. Now, this gives us a brilliant example of how proximity led to innovation. By getting close and really understanding our customers and understanding these gamers, we were able to impact their lives, and then we were able to allow them to tell their own story and really implement inclusive marketing. Let's take a look.
My name is Wilbur. Sean. My name is Ian. I'm Taylor. My name is Owen, and I am 9.5 years old.
So Owen was born with a rare genetic disorder called Escobar syndrome.
He's had 33 surgeries to date.
I love video games, my friends, my family, and again video games.
It's his way of interacting with his friends when he can't physically otherwise do it.
What I like about the adaptive controller is now everyone can play. You can just say, alright, that's that button, that's that button, that's that button. Perfect.
One of the biggest fears early on is, how will Owen be viewed by the other kids? He's not different when he plays.
No matter how your body is or how fast you are, you can play. It's a really good thing to have in this world.
Now, we are on a continuous journey at Microsoft. We are learning, we are experimenting, we are innovating, and we're creating meaningful connections. An important aspect of this journey for us was really defining what inclusive marketing is. Now, through our journey, we have found that inclusive marketing is products, services, or experiences that reach people in ways that deeply resonate, and afterwards remains an indelible experience that fuels long-term loyalty and growth. This is at the heart of inclusive marketing. And how do we do this? We do this by highlighting or solving for an aspect of diversity that then resonates with all of us, by highlighting a common human value like love, family, safety, opportunity, enduring stories like the struggle of coming of age or the come from behind win like the underdog. Now, as we think about what inclusive marketing is, and the demonstration of the adaptive controller, we can start to see a framework emerge. Inclusive marketing can either be inclusive products, inclusive audiences, or inclusive strategies, meaning that it can be what you market, who you market to, or how you market to them. It can be one of these, two of these, or all of these in your go-to-market strategy, but at the heart of all of this, you must be thinking inclusively. Now, as we continue on, I want to continue painting our landscape and really look at the actual numbers, the worldwide statistics of people who are excluded when you do not consider accessibility. There are currently 1.2 billion people in the world living with a disability. Only 10% of those actually report having access to the products or services that they need. 1 in 5 people in the US are living with a disability, with 1 in 4 in Europe. All of this equates to an estimated $7 trillion worth of buying power, an opportunity that only 29% of marketers actually report focusing on. Let's all change that. Now, I want to continue on and share some of these brilliant brands who are out there doing this work. It is not only us thinking about inclusive design and inclusive marketing. There are industry signals all over the place. Tommy Hilfiger, Toyota, Jockey. There are other brands out there who are beginning to consider how to deliberately not exclude. Tommy Hilfiger Adaptive recently launched with a whole line of clothing with magnetic buttons, zippers that you can pull with one hand, padded jeans for those who have to sit for long hours in wheelchairs. If you're interested, there's also a documentary ad online about the ad online. The director of the advertisement was completely blind, and everyone who acted in the ad was not actually an actor, but real people living with disabilities. This is completely authentic. Now, we recently conducted some very deep research in partnership with Accenture, really trying to understand what inclusive marketing is, who's doing it right, what are the key drivers here. And one of my very, very favorite examples that came out of this was Morrisons. Morrisons is a large retailer based out of the UK. They decided to dig in and really understand their customer base better than they ever had before. And what they found is that 20% of their shoppers had a friend or family member that was on the spectrum. And they coupled that with an industry statistic. Did you know that there are 700,000 people living in the UK with autism? And 64% of those people report that they avoid shopping altogether. And so Morrisons implemented quiet hours every weekend from 9 to 10 a.m. in all 493 of their stores. They are realizing that this is an opportunity to make an audience that was previously excluded feel included, incorporating that 64% who avoid shopping into their shopping base, allowing them to reach an audience that was previously excluded. So in our partnership with Accenture, we had the ability to really go deep with a lot of these retailers and really learning from them why they employ inclusive marketing. And it became clear that they employ inclusive marketing as a growth engine strategy. They say that it can help them tap into new audiences, spur market growth and be a competitive advantage, increase and deepen audience engagement, and overall help them to develop a customer experience. Now, we're all familiar with how the customer experience is changing. Customers are demanding more personalization. They are demanding better customer experience and deep brand connections. So much so that consumers are not thinking about your brands in silos anymore, but they're actually thinking of them as an extension of their values. That the most progressive ads are actually 25% more likely to be effective, where they tend to trigger positive engagement, where they're more relevant, surprising. Think opposite to corporate and stuffy. Millennials, a key demographic for most of us, say that they will actually choose one brand over another if it demonstrates diversity in its promotions. And younger millennials say that they choose an inclusive brand over a competitor who offers a similar product. And finally, 91% of millennials say that they would switch to a brand that is associated with a good cause. Now think, is your brand associated with a good cause? That doesn't have to mean a philanthropic effort. It could mean, does your brand source its ingredients through fair trade, sustainability? And that stat for millennials is actually true for moms as well. However, 93% of moms would choose a brand that supports a good cause. There is opportunity here for us as brands to really align ourselves and our organization's values. All right, let's continue painting our landscape and uncovering opportunities within the LGBTQ community. There are currently an estimated 700 million people in the world estimated as LGBTQ, 15% of the US population, and 26% of millennials actually identify as LGBTQ. This equates to $3.7 trillion in buying power in the world, a huge opportunity that leaders like Smirnoff are exploring. Now, Smirnoff deployed natural synergy and leading by example from the inside out, two more principles of successful inclusive marketing. They used their influential platform to really spread awareness about LGBTQ issues through a holistic, long-term integrated strategy. They employed 3 strategies in the We're Open campaign, which was a global call for inclusivity, covering issues around gender and exclusion. The first strategy that they employed was community engagement. Smirnoff is helping the expansion efforts of LGBTQ's flagship Village Angels initiative based out of Manchester's Gay Village. The organization uses volunteers, local authorities, and emergency responders to really help make the nightlife a safer space for LGBTQ members. This initiative has helped nearly 100,000 people since 2011, and it was actually able to grow and establish a new chapter in 2018 with the support of Smirnoff. Now, the second strategy they employed was building connections by highlighting individuals in the non-binary and trans community. Through numerous short-form documentaries and ads, they crafted an intimate brand image which directly contrasts with the fact that Smirnoff is the largest vodka brand in the world. This created proximity and empathy in the consumer base and drove record numbers of volunteers for the organization. And finally, they relied on experiences. In partnership with Spotify and transgender artist Henny Dijon, they created an app where you can go in and actually uncover bias in your music preferences. Furthermore, they actually asked the music industry to sign a pledge to advance gender representation in the industry. They demonstrated real commitment to the LGBTQ community and saw, within 1 year, from 2017 to 2018, $1.2 billion increase in revenue. A huge impact just for recognizing those exclusions and helping out a community that was previously excluded. All right, let's turn our attention to one more audience today and really fill in those landscape details by looking at some of these audience stats. There are 43 million people in the Black community in the United States. 100% increase in Black Africans in just 10 short years. The number of Black female-owned businesses has tripled in the US, and all of this equates to $1 trillion in spending power. There is definitely opportunity here, and no one has done better at recognizing the value in this community like Rihanna. Fenty Beauty is a beautiful demonstration of a brand that is naturally inclusive because it was designed by recognizing exclusions and innovating on them. Now, before the launch of Fenty, makeup brands offered at most 15 shades of foundation, most of which were varying degrees of ivory and beige. Now, take a look around. Do you think that there are 15 shades of people in this room? No. Fenty Beauty demonstrated their commitment to removing exclusions and tapped into this market by helping these people find the right shades of foundation. What if you were not even considered? What if brands did not even think of you? That is what Fenty sought to conquer, widespread exclusion in the makeup industry. So they innovated and they created 40 shades of foundation, a far cry from those 15 shades before the launch of Fenty. But it doesn't stop there. We know that if we are going to innovate and really include, that we don't just stop at launch. And Fenty recognized this and continued to refine those shades. They are now up to 50 shades of foundation, a far cry from those 15. But inclusive product design is only one part of a successful recipe for inclusive marketing. And so Fenty deployed 3 strategies in really bringing inclusive marketing to life. Fenty showed that they were not just another brand with a celebrity face attached. Rihanna established credibility with fans by directly getting involved in product design. She attended beauty shows. She gave tutorials and product reviews. Secondly, they highlighted the most important aspect of their business, and that was their customers. By really getting in touch with their customers, they were able to highlight the diverse range of inclusive products, as well as highlighting what makeup is all about for individuals, and that is an expression of creation of their individuality. And finally, they created community engagement. Fenty Face Friday, hashtag Fenty Face Friday, was an outlet for these individuals to really share who they are while also capitalizing and showing that diverse range of products. Now, Fenty Face Friday absolutely took off. Now, has anybody heard of the book Contagious Content? That book tells you that the best way to create a successful campaign is by creating share-worthy content. And that is exactly what Fenty Face Friday did. The impact has been incredible. Within the first 40 days of launch, Fenty earned $72 million in earned media, 132 million views of Fenty-related content on YouTube. And how much revenue do you think was generated in the first 40 days? $100 million in the first 40 days of launch, and $500 million within the first year. All very incredibly impressive, but while those are incredibly impressive stats, what's more impressive is the fact that they are creating lasting emotional connections with their customers. This is what inclusive approaches to business are all about. Some are finding shades of foundation for the first time. They're getting emotional at the counter. They're not getting emotional because they're buying makeup. They are getting emotional because for the first time in their life, they are not being excluded. And so, through our research, we have really developed some key themes on why consumers will actually buy from brands. Consumers will buy from brands when they stand for something that is larger than just their products, which aligns with the consumer's personal values. When they have sustainable products, and millennials will actually pay more. When they demonstrate authenticity and ethical values, and finally, when the company delivers on what it promises to. Now, when brands do not focus on these, it becomes a critical failure. Brands who do not focus on these will lose. Tony's Chocolonely is not one of them. They are leading. Next time you unwrap a chocolate bar, I want you to consider this. There are an estimated 2.3 million children who work in the cocoa fields of Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. A number of major chocolate companies have actually acknowledged their usage of child slavery in their chocolate production. But despite this, they have yet to take any meaningful action. Tony's Chocolonely, in partnering with Accenture, developed a technology using blockchain that is a bean tracker, which digitally logs the journey from bean to bar and includes a monitoring tool so you can determine where those beans are at any point in the journey. The goal is to become the industry standard so that we can choose beans that are free of child slave labor. So I ask everyone today, knowing what you know now about Tony's Chocolonely, and you had the opportunity, would you buy Tony's Chocolonely or another chocolate brand? Raise your hand if you'd buy Tony's Chocolonely. This is a great example of how we buy with our values. We are the new customers. I argue that everyone would buy for a good cause. Remember those stats on millennials and moms. All right, before we go today, I want to leave you with some key principles about how leaders of inclusive marketing are really employing these strategies. First, you need to make the synergy between your brand and cause completely obvious and really a natural extension of the brand's mission. Secondly, develop deep and detailed customer research, formal research, authentic employee engagement. Utilize those market researchers. Demonstrate authenticity in everything that you do. Remember, when you design for one, you actually design for all, and that is not limited to products, but can actually be extended well into campaign strategy. And finally, what part of your brand can serve a higher purpose? Make that a brand attribute. So now as we close today, I want you to think about those millennials and those moms. Think about Tony's Chocolonely and how we would buy for a good cause. Think about all of these inclusive marketing principles. All of us today have the opportunity to not only drive strong ROI, but actually create some good. Thank you.